Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Mayor and Board of Commissioners for February the 14th, 2017. Will you rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will you bow your heads with me for a brief prayer? Father God, I come to you tonight on behalf of the town of Rising Sun. God, I ask that you watch over our citizens, watch over our elected body, our police department, as well as those serving overseas. God, I ask that you continue to guide us and protect us. In Jesus' name, amen. Roll call. Yes, could I get the roll call, please?
Commissioner Pearson,
Here.
Commissioner Arthurleith,
Here.
Commissioner Braun,
Here.
Commissioner Warnick,
Here.
Mayor Marion.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all of the elected body is in attendance.
Thank you. First is, we have no public presentations tonight. We have no business meeting items. Bunky, if you would like to come up and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Bunky Luffman from the governor's office. I was just appointed to this position in November. I'm the Eastern Shore liaison from his office to the elected officials from Cecil to Somerset. So 56 municipalities and 9 counties. So I'll go a little bit into what that role is, but I'll give you a little bit of well, before I give you a background, I got to tell you, I ate at Sue's today, and whenever some place has liver and onions, I eat it because nobody ever serves it anymore, and it was great. So, and they had awesome cake too. So, I don't know if I don't want to get in trouble endorsing any particular business, but if you haven't had dinner with your sweetheart this evening or whatever, you know, Sue's is right around the corner, so it was great. I'm 119 miles away from home, so I'm not based in Annapolis. I'm still based in Delmar. I was which is right outside of Salisbury. We're between Salisbury and the Delaware state line. So we're kind of bisected by the Trans-Peninsular line, which Mason and Dixon found when they did the Mason-Dixon line. So I was deputy mayor of Delmar. I was also the planning and zoning chairman for Delmar, Maryland and Delmar, Delaware, as well as I was really involved in MML, and I saw you have the banner flag. I was on the board of directors for 1.5 terms because I had to resign my seat as deputy mayor to take on this role. So I was at-large bid 1 year, and then this past year I was district vice president for District 1, which is the Lower Shore. Well, at the same time as a deputy mayor, I worked in Annapolis for Delegate Anderton, so I know, you know, Senator Norman and Delegate Kevin Hornberger. Yeah, I was thinking Kevin and Delegate Hornberger pretty well. And before that, I was a water operator and a wastewater operator for the city of Salisbury. So a lot of local government experience. So before I tell you what the role is, I'll tell you what it isn't. I'm not a spokesperson for the governor. He has very professional people that do that. I don't do anything legislative. He has a legislative team that also do that, and that is great because after 2 sessions in Annapolis, it feels really good to be able to spend all my time on the Eastern Shore instead of there. So what the job is like the name implies, it's a liaison. So if you want to know who to speak to in state government for anything, for instance, I had a town that wants to do a wastewater upgrade, and they had no idea who to contact at MDE to even get the ball rolling on going from BNR to ENR. It's Jag Kuman who does the finances there. But anything like that, if you're working with a state agency and you find that you're talking past each other, or maybe they're not as getting back to you as quickly as they maybe should, then you call me and I'll help you with that too. So that's really what the role is. It's a liaison. So anything that I can do to help you. I am going around this is kind of an introductory meeting, but I will be coming back again. I have 56 municipalities, 9 counties, so I won't be here monthly or anything like that, but I do plan on continually, I don't plan on stopping, you know, doing my 65 town meeting or, you know, council meetings, then stopping. I plan on kind of just, this is what I'm going to do, you know, so I'll cycle around, you know, until they find another position for me or whatever happens. So if there's any questions or anything like that. Oh, and I gave Calvin my business card, so there's a business card for everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions?
All right.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for
Definitely.
coming by.
Yep.
Miss Oppenheimer? I hope I said that right. Sorry.
It's Oppenheimer, that's all right.
Oppenheimer.
I divorced him anyway.
There we go.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to speak really briefly. My boyfriend, Jim, and I just moved down here this past year from a very small town in Pennsylvania, Elverson. It's the 1 square mile of happiness, they call themselves. So I'm fairly new to this town, and Jim Clark, my boyfriend, introduced me to this town, and we're having some problems with our water bill. We've been having problems since December with our water bill. Jim likes to pay his bills ahead of time, and we come in and we pay them in cash. And they would take our cash and they would give us the small receipt. It's kind of the first time that I've dealt with a payment program such as this, so we hold on to this little receipt. The problem is, it doesn't tell us, sometimes they don't write down how much you give them. Sometimes they'll just stamp it. There doesn't seem to be a set plan as to what happens when you pay your water bill. So we have to set in, the townspeople have to set in their own checks and balances as to what happens, it seems. Today, since this is the second month or the third month that we're going into that we are having problems, we asked for a customer transaction. Now, I don't know if you can see the small print. Jim has copies that if he wants to talk, he can hand out his own. You kind of need an accounting degree to read the transactions. I know that we pay in advance, so most of the things in the balance should be in the negatives for us. And the transaction amounts, we don't even understand what most of them mean. We have forfeitures, which we don't even know what forfeiture should mean, because we always pay our bills on time or ahead of time. We know that there was a plan coming out that if you paid your bill ahead of time, you would get a discounted rate, which we tried to do. So we don't even know why we were getting, quote unquote, a forfeiture, which looks like an extra charge on our bill. So we're just kind of confused, and we're very confused at looking at this, because when you get your next bill, it doesn't even say you paid such and such amount. Now this is your new balance. So I'm behooving and really asking, please, can you look at the water billing services? Something like Quicken would even be better, so that you can just go in and say, hey, this is what you were owed, this is what you paid, this is your new balance. And that would just be so much easier. And then when you come in, instead of stamping something, hand me a receipt. This was your balance. This is what you just paid me. This is what you now owe. Print something out, so I have a paper. Don't just stamp something and then write something on here, because that person might not even work here next week. The people downstairs change so often that it's just their word. That's all I have to say. I'm just putting it on tape now, putting it in front of the board. Please do something with the billing system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark?
With that being said, here's the second half of the problems that we have had. I'm going to give these to Chief Peterson so he can hand them out. We spoke with a couple of you guys individually last couple weeks ago. I was late getting to the meeting because I was at work, and we didn't even know that there was an issue with the bill being paid or being documented that it was paid on the last meeting, which was the 24th. Now it says here it's stamped received on the 24th. Okay. There's no initials. There's nothing. Now it shows on my transactions that it was paid. Okay. I wasn't here to pay it that day, et cetera, et cetera. I remember walking in the following day, because I typically have Wednesdays off, and saying, here, I'm going to pay February's bill in advance. I walked in and I asked the lady sitting at the desk, can I pay ahead so we don't have this problem anymore? She walked over to the computer and I said, how much is my bill about? And she said around $80. I gave her another $80. There was nothing to stamp, no way to create a receipt, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, this is the second month I have not received a bill in the mail at all. Being a taxpayer like all of you here, I don't think I should be chasing around a little piece of paper. Agreed or not agreed?
Agreed.
So, with all of that being said, as I understand, the bills are supposed to be going out on the 1st of every month, and now it's the 14th. I mean, honestly, the systems and the checks and balances you guys have are not anywhere near being correct. I run a restaurant for a living, and we have all sorts of systems of checks and balances. It needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed immediately. And with that being said, why am I getting penalized if I use a debit card 3.5% of a transaction?
Well, it's not a penalty, that's a service charge. And you know, running a restaurant, we talked about this last time, you always charge us for using the credit cards.
Well, we built it into our prices of operation.
Still, you're being charged, and we're being charged. And myself, I don't use the credit card. Because of that, I come up and drop my check off. Not to make excuses, you're not the only one that's not getting their mail in this town. And we could hold another meeting about issues at the post office, and we have, haven't we?
Well,
So, but-
and all I'm going to say leaving this is up until the December issue, I haven't had a problem getting this piece of paper in the mail. And I've lived in this town for 4 years. And now we're month 2 of not getting a bill in the mail.
Can I just see this? Jim, you got me caught on here, because I get mine, and I can't figure out why you don't get yours.
We're right next door.
Yeah,
No idea.
that doesn't, I tell you what, I will, this weekend, I'll go to the rest of the court and see who's getting their mail, and if they're getting their water, maybe it's getting, I don't know. Heaven knows we got problems with his post office. But, you know, I can't explain why I get mine and you don't get yours.
We get our next door neighbor's other bills.
Oh, yeah,
We
well.
don't get their water bill.
Well, by the way, if you really want your next door neighbor's bills, I'll arrange for some.
Pay them, we just get
Oh,
them.
It's
okay.
not that. I mean, don't you think it's too coincidental that I haven't gotten a water bill 2 months in a row?
But it's not, don't think it's what some people are calling retaliation,
Oh,
because
we
you
never
spoke
said
out.
that. We
I just
This
think
is-
it's very
this is a
coincidental.
fluke. And yeah, there's something wrong there, and Augie and I and Calvin, we'll find out what's going on, because I remember I talked to you at the last meeting
Yeah.
about this,
And
and believe me, it makes me mad too that this kind of stuff is happening. We do believe some of this problem's on the post office end.
Now,
If it's on our end, yeah, we can fix that, that's the checks and balances, and we'll find out.
Now, we were told, or I was told today on the phone by a woman who answered the phone, Diane Rustine, or is that her name? She told me that the bill was being held until it could be, my problem from the last bill could be reconciled. Don't I deserve a phone call or something? An email? I mean, in this day and age, it's easier to communicate than ever,
Yeah.
right?
You're right.
I mean, honestly, it's not, the checks and balances here, ever since that lady who used to work down there up until this summer, or this past summer, she had blonde hair.
There's been 2 or 3 down there.
Well, she was a petite woman. She'd been here for a while, I think, and she was let go or whatever.
You have a
I mean,
name?
she was very good, but she was very good at her job. Every time she stamped it, she initialed it, and she wrote the dollar amount. Ever since she's been gone, it's getting worse and worse.
Okay.
All right?
All right, we appreciate you coming in and
Can
talking to us. And we'll
address this,
find out what text
this one here just real quick, because people probably will have questions about
Is
this.
this,
What this,
hey, Dave, is this transaction, this is Wagner speak?
well,
what
this
do you
is,
think
this
ever-
is the water billing software,
Yeah,
right, which is tied to the meters in the house and everything. We couldn't just switch to Quicken because, or
Right.
QuickBooks or anything, because it's tied
Yeah.
to the wireless meters in the town. But what this is because we now have a discount if you pay your bill within the first 10 days, if you look, it says charge, they only charge the discounted amount. After the 10 days, which if you look, it'll be November 30th, December 10th, forfeiture, that's the remaining non-discounted portion, right? And then you have the next charge on the 31st, you look on the 10th, forfeiture. So what those forfeitures are, it's just the way the software works. So in order to provide a discount, it's basically billing the discounted rate. The forfeiture is the remainder because you're forfeiting the discount because you didn't pay in time in the system, right?
So the forfeiture is $1?
It was 1% because your bill was 99.51, so 99.5 would round up to 9. It would not.
Because we did pay,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I understand. So yeah, if your balance was paid in full by that forfeiture
By
date,
the
you
10th
wouldn't
of the
have the
month.
forfeiture.
By
Yes,
the 10th of the month, right?
correct. And then the
And then
penalty, huh?
It says, I'm looking at here, if this bill says due date, it's 10% more, not 1% early.
One. Oh yeah,
10%.
but there's also a 1% discount if you pay within the first 10 days.
Okay.
The 10% penalty is after 21 days, I believe.
No, it
It's,
says 20 here.
it's 30 days after the due date.
Okay, 30 days after the due date.
So
is
it's
10%.
essentially
Okay.
50 days
51
from
days
the
after
time
the
the
bill
bill
is issued.
goes out.
Okay.
All right. Moving forward, and certainly if you guys have more questions, we'll be here after the meetings. Obviously, you talked to us before after the meeting, so we'll be here.
What's your fiance's name?
Jim.
Jan Clark.
Jim Clark.
All right. Ms. Maynard.
Good to see you back, Brenda.
Well, thank you. But I just need to know. It's becoming spring here shortly. What are we going to do about the water issue in Valley View?
Which part? Which water issue?
My water issue, the water
through the
that's coming
backyard?
from the overflow pond. Not from the drain that's
Groundwater.
coming off of my house.
Runoff.
It's from the water coming from the overflow pond. What are we going to do? It's been almost 2 years. I've been fighting for over 15 years with the water issue in that backyard.
Well, I think the problem we still have to fix is that sidewalk, right? That,
I don't think it's the sidewalk.
well, I
it's-
mean, right now, there's not a fix. We get torrential downpours, and you get that high flow coming down from the stormwater pond behind the bank.
And that's what's washing my yard out.
Yeah, and then once it gets down, goes through your yard and under your little short sidewalk, then it either runs down your yard. And remember, when I was out there looking, we looked at
Right.
trying to cut a relief in that sidewalk to allow it to come out and go down the gutter. Is that the one we still need to resolve?
Well, we need to figure something out, because my yard's washing away, and I understand my dog runs along the fence, and that probably is not helping it, but he is
Well,
not doing all
Yeah,
that problem.
he's not the problem at all. I mean, he kills your grass because he's just a
We won't even
happy-go-lucky
talk about
lab
that
and
one.
runs back and forth there. But,
It looks like I have a mole in my yard, because there's about 60 holes, yeah.
but he's digging for moles.
So wait a
But
minute. If it's a lab, the moles aren't there because the lab digs the holes.
Oh, believe me, I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah,
you-
believe me, I know.
You had, and Ron, I took Ron and Calvin out there and looked at it, and I apologize that it looks like we dropped the ball, but for lack of a better word, we did. We've got to cut a relief in that sidewalk to allow that water, once it comes off the corner of your house and down through your yard, to not build up against the sidewalk and run down your yard where your
Yeah,
dog
'cause
is.
when it does
We need a
rain-
relief cut through there so it can go out and follow the the storm gutter in the
Right.
street down to that drain in front of your house.
Yeah, because when it does rain, when it does rain and the water comes down, it looks like a river on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Or in the wintertime, when the
Yep.
snow melts,
I've seen-
it's a solid sheet of ice.
Right, yeah, that's what we need to fix. And when we went out there and looked at it, I had talked about cutting it, putting a pipe under there, and then recovering it with concrete,
Mm-hmm.
but the concrete would be too thin and would break up. Then the next thought was put an I-beam through there that we can bolt down a steel plate over the top of it, that kids won't be able to pull off, is probably the way we're gonna have to go.
Okay.
Because if we don't cut a relief in that sidewalk there to allow the water that's not just coming from your house, it's coming from your neighbors and everybody, you just happen
Right.
to be at the end where it all backs up and either runs down your yard or overflows onto the sidewalk. Because there's nothing to allow it to free flow out of there.
Right,
And that's what we gotta do.
okay.
But in all fairness, the real problem exists back to the retention pond.
Yeah.
Who owns the
Sure.
retention pond?
It's behind the
Behind the bank.
bank. I don't know who
There
owns
wasn't a
it.
problem in Valley View anywhere until that pond went in.
And
And I
then,
think that retention pond should,
and
be
then when the
the one that's-
streetscape got done,
Yep.
we were told that the pipe was gonna be put underneath and connected to the pipes to the main street, that it would be draining through the bottom and out. And I understand when it rains hard, it's gonna fill up fast.
Yeah.
But is the bottom of that pond, is that drain not big enough? Or is it not connected to the pipes like it's supposed to be?
the burden should go back to the bank. They're the ones that had it put in. It should be their burden, not the neighbors.
I
I
don't
see
think-
right there where that water runs down across through that bus lane.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's unreal.
Yeah, it is. I've
That
seen,
never happened.
after I went out and met with Brenda a couple of times and followed that path down
Yeah.
through there, and during some hard rains, went out there and saw it. Yeah, once you see it, it's bad. And it seems like when we get rain anymore, it's torrentials.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm the one complaining, but there's other people, and I've told
Understand.
people, they need to come up here and start, they need to let you guys know what's going on, but I know behind Mr. Snap's house, it's just like a pond. I mean, it really bad. It's bad.
Yeah, you guys are on a heck of a slant down there. Once water starts coming down that parking lot. It looks like that spillway at the Oroville Dam out there in California right now.
Well, for one thing, when those houses was built, if you go back to the blueprints, it doesn't match the blueprints.
Yeah, we
Because
saw
where my
that.
house is supposed to be road.
Yeah, we saw that. Okay.
Well, the other problem there, you gotta stop and think about it. How much erosion's underneath those pads? What do you think the possibility of erosion underneath those pads washing rust?
Well, we've seen it
Washing the
on
base right
a lot of
under.
the sidewalks up through there. Ron
Yeah.
and the guys went up there and filled some concrete under. There's a lot of them washing away that embankment.
Yep.
Fortunately, it's not, we've got that curbing to help maintain that water coming down through there. That helps just redirect a higher flow down through there. Because unfortunately, that development was built on a heck of a slope.
Yeah.
Well, when they dug
Oh,
the
real quick,
first drain-
that drain right in front of your house, is it sinking anymore?
Oh, yeah, it's worse now than what it has been.
Okay.
All right. Chief?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm going to be really brief because it's Valentine's Day and I know some people are still wooing and they want to get home.
Thank you. Let's see if the town administrator follows.
During the period of January 25th through February 14th, we responded to 432 calls for service. We've used 24 hours of vacation, 14 hours of personal time, 20.5 of sick time. In the Valley View development, and I'd like to ask a question of Ms. Maynard and the group from Valley View. We spent 28 hours of patrol in there during that time period. Have you noticed any problems or anything like that? I see a smile coming,
No, I don't think it's a smile.
a smirk.
It's a smile.
I just thought it was funny the one day, and I'll be right up front, if you don't mind me, Miss Lynn. She went chasing the cop down because they were parked all over both sides of the street. Well, I stood out front, I stood out back, and I bust up laughing because Mr. McKinney come down there and got two of them suckers.
Very good.
They just, yesterday, a guy sat there, stopped dead in front of me, I was behind him, I went around him, I was like, the sign says you cannot park there. Well, I'm just dropping my grandson off, I put my four-ways on, and away he went. They just don't care.
Okay. The most difficult thing to do is change human behavior. Citations work well. However, if they're not getting that, we're just going to keep issuing them. So you'll see the officers down there more often. Along Main, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry to cut you short. You need to start doing muffler checks down there.
muffler checks.
Loud pipes.
Yeah. I had one there tonight, you would think that there was like a huge diesel truck out front, but it wasn't, it was a Mustang. It was inside, you could hear it all the way inside the house.
Okay. Along Main Street, We stopped 10 vehicles for speeding, 12 for equipment violations, and 33 for other violations. The most interesting portion of this report, for Main Street, we had 4 meth arrests, 2 for heroin, 3 for marijuana, 2 other fugitives, 1 theft, 1 failed to appear warrant, and 1 disorderly. Throughout the rest of the town for traffic, we stopped 2 for speeding on Queen Street, 4 other violations. We stopped 3 for speeding on North Walnut, 2 for equipment violations. On Mount Street, 1 for speeding, 2 for other violations. Pearl Street, 1 speed, 1 equipment, 1 other violation. And the other roads around town, we had 1 speeding and 6 other violations. We attended, during this time period, we attended 2 events. I spoke at the Fairview Housing development in reference seniors and safety. They have been having some issues with fraud and the seniors trusting anyone to come into the building. So we talked to them about them, and hopefully we got them headed in the right direction so that they do not allow people just to wander in off the street. And they're more mindful about when someone calls up and says they're a distant relative and need money, that they do not, fall for that scam. And for, not just seniors, if you do get those types of phone calls, verify the information you're given before you provide any account information or decide to pay someone with iTunes cards. And lastly, the law enforcement breakfast was this past week. I'm very thankful that the board, the Town of Rising Sun Commissioners, recognize what law enforcement officers do on a daily basis. I'm proud to be a part of it, and it's actually humbling when you come here and see so many people that work so hard just to say thank you. Law enforcement officers don't receive thank yous very well. We don't know what to do with them, don't know how to act. So you'll have some stunned looks on our face like, what are you talking about? This is what we choose to do. But we are thankful. With that being said, if there's any other questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Where was the one theft in town?
The one theft in town on Main Street?
Okay, yeah. There was actually 2.
Okay.
And I'm just, it was at our house.
It was at your house?
Yeah, I've already discussed it with you.
We didn't report it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't.
These are theft arrests. Did you have an arrest from the one at your house?
No, we actually have a theft
Okay,
right out our front porch.
okay. Well, hopefully
Probably
next meeting we'll be reporting that one as an arrest.
Okay.
All right?
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
All right. Town Administrator.
A couple of quick items for you, Mayor and elected body. I received a notice from the Office of the Attorney General, Consumer Protection Division, and apparently there was a recent law enacted that essentially creates a insurance or fund that if people become the victim of shoddy work from a new home builder, not a contractor who's just doing renovations in a home, but the actual construction of a complete house, there's a fund that's been created which now requires every code enforcement department in the state of Maryland to attach a $50 additional fee on every building permit that is issued. And then on a monthly basis, we have to remit that money that's collected to the state, and that's how they populate that fund. So it's very similar to the Bay Restoration. We're going to become the collection agency to some degree for the states in passing that along. It's a good thing. It's a fund to protect the consumer, but we're going to have to we're going to have to make an adjustment in our fee schedule to reflect the $50 building permit fee. Again, I want to emphasize it is not for renovations of existing homes, it's for brand new construction of homes. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, was part of citizens' comment, and Commissioner Arthurnuth had mentioned it. Yes, it has been a long-standing problem with the post office at not delivering mail consistently. I did have a meeting with the manager down at the post office. She came up to see me after an article appeared in one of the newspapers talking about mail not getting delivered. We are getting about maybe 75 to 100 or so items that are clearly marked, but they are being sent back to us as non-deliverable. So we are having a problem with utility bills not consistently getting delivered. What she pointed out to me was that despite the day and age of technology, as we all know, the mail that gets put in a mailbox here in the town of Rising Sun doesn't get delivered from the Rising Sun post office until it goes down to Baltimore and gets sorted, and then it's brought all the way back to the town of Rising Sun to deliver it, which is really interesting. There is I'm going to call it a giant machine that's a reader, and it reads the mail as it goes through. And the Rising Sun post office, like all the other small post office, they all get an hour on that machine. And the mail goes through it, and if it can't identify the post office box correctly, it goes through a long system that takes 2 weeks to get it turned around, and then it gets delivered back to the post office here as non-deliverable. And what it appears to come down to is that when you put somebody's address on an envelope, it will not read the first line. So if you're mailing something to the town of Rising Sun and you put 1 East Main Street first, the machine will not read it. It will only read the second line. So if you don't put the post office box on that second line, the machine will not read it. So the post office said that they are making a change to their system here that, and I don't want to overcomplicate it for the technical people here in the room that would understand it, because I don't. They're basically, she described it as a shadow reader on the system that will allow her people here to be able to properly put a sticker on the envelope that gets mailed before it goes down to Baltimore, which again seems a little bit odd that a human is going to handle it here, but that same human can't deliver it until it goes all the way to Baltimore and comes back. What we're going to try to do to assist in that is we have 900 accounts, but we send out about 1,200 mailings because we have to send to the owner of the property and then a courtesy mailing to the tenant on the property. So that's why we have 900 accounts, but we have more mailing that goes out. We're going to audit our system to make sure that our postcards and what we are mailing out clearly has that post office box on the second line. However, we already know that we have people that, although they set up a post office account, when they came in to register a water account with us, they did not provide that post office box. So we've got to figure out how many properties we're talking about and then get those people to provide us with what that post office box is, because we cannot contact the post office and ask, what is the P.O. box for 111 Main Street? By law, they're not allowed to provide that information to us. So we have to track down what in some cases might be a landlord that's not paying attention to try to get whatever that P.O. box is. So it is a problem that we've been dealing with for a while, and it really has sparked in the last 90 days where we've had some folks on Keppel's Mill and Commissioner Braun's neighborhood that all of a sudden is not getting their mail. So it might be the reason why you were asking why you're getting it and a neighbor might not. We've got to double check to see how the mailing is listed on those accounts. The other item I wanted to bring up is I went down to visit Fairview Housing, just like the chief was talking about, because they need to put a new sign up because it got damaged in the wind. And I had a chance to walk through the facility with the manager there, and I just think it's a good idea to let people know that have not been in there how well that facility really is maintained. It's not an assisted living facility, and some people think when they look at a place like that it's a nursing home or it's some kind of assisted living. It's not. It's basically an apartment complex that has a manager there, and they also have a janitor, so to speak, or a handyman to take care of things. But they are doing a lot of painting in the facility. They're replacing a lot of carpeting. They're putting some lighting in there. And in my career, I've been in a lot of facilities over my time in municipal government, and I want to let everybody know that I was really impressed with how nice and clean the inside of that facility is. And you can also tell how well a facility is doing because there are 75 units in there, and more than half of them, an overwhelming majority of them, have been there for 16 years, and that's how long the facility has been there also. And that the only reason they really get any kind of turnover is when people get to the point where they need assisted living and they can no longer stay in the facility. So it really is a testament to how nice and clean and organized Fairview is. So the chief reminded me of that when he was talking about his visit there. So I wanted to pass that along. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Town Administrator. All right, is there any old business? Is there any new business? All right, we'll move into my report. I wanted to make sure everyone is aware, we sent out these postcards for our meet and greet, which is this Saturday, the 18th, starting at 9 a.m. It should be a great time. It's going to be an informal setting so people can come up and meet us. One of the biggest reasons we decided to do this, we obviously have 2 brand new commissioners who are on board that we want the public to get to know. We also want the public to come out and ask questions. Maybe they have something on their mind that they want to ask us about, and also to let them know what's going on in their community, what we have planned for this upcoming year and the plans moving forward with our water line. And it looks like it will be a great time, so I'm looking forward to everyone coming out and enjoying our meet and greet. I also attended the Maryland Mayors Association conference and had a wonderful time. Met with a bunch of colleagues and took a few classes on community engagement. It was an excellent time, and I really enjoyed myself. I wanted to also say that, as Chief Peterson mentioned, and I'm sure Commissioner Pearson will mention, a big thank you to everyone that came out to our police breakfast this year. I was astounded that our entire board was present, and we were all working together to make sure that we had an excellent time and that our police officers knew that they were appreciated. So it was wonderful. I want to thank Commissioner Augie Pearson, as well as his wife, his son, and everyone that came out to volunteer as well. And last but not least, Jennifer and Tom Scully, who continue to man this event and host it. We have called them. This is our second year doing it without Jen being here as a commissioner. Her first year, she did it as a commissioner, but she's come back every single year and wanted to do it. So we've been blessed to have her as part of our police breakfast. Bottom of the Hill recently held a giraffe fundraiser for Plumpton Park Zoo. They raised over $6,000 that night just by doing 50/50s, and they did a silent auction. So a big shout out to Bottom of the Hill and to Plumpton Park for doing a fundraiser in our community. It was a great time. They raised the money for a female giraffe. They're continuing to raise money so that Jimmy the giraffe, their male giraffe, can get a girlfriend. So we look forward to potentially that happening in the future. I recently got a phone call from Cecil Leadership. They want me to come and speak to their upcoming 2017 class. I'm looking forward to doing that as well. And then tomorrow I am kicking off our Mayor for a Day contest from the Maryland Mayors Association at the Tome School. This is the 3rd year that the Tome School has asked me to come, even though the Tome School is not in Rising Sun. They've asked me to come every single year, so I'll be there, as well as going to Rising Sun Elementary, potentially Calvert Elementary and Conowingo Elementary to do our Mayor for a Day contest this year. So that concludes my report. Moving forward into Commissioner comments, Commissioner Alton-Reed.
Along with water and sewer right now, you know, wintertime, we don't have really any projects going on. We try to get through the winter and be ready for any breaks that may happen with the crazy freezing and thawing we get this time of year. And I hope I don't jinx us by speaking about this tonight, because I'm worried about this, but we've done pretty good this year, and, you know, we're a long ways into the winter, and we've been pretty good. But when we do have a break, our Public Works guys, Ron and his crew, are on it and get it taken care of pretty quickly. So that's kind of why I haven't been saying much about water and sewer this winter, because we want to get through the winter and respond to any breaks we get. I was also here Friday for the breakfast. Thanks again to Tom and Jen, who started this and continued it. And we were talking with Lisa. We think we're going to have to expand this to a bigger event next year. And Augie and his family were up at 3 o'clock in the morning getting this thing ready. And we had the thing that really got me was we had a big turnout of volunteers who showed up, said, "What can I do? What can I do?" And I think the chief, you know, and his officers and people he knows that came out recognized that too, because we at one point had this room full of volunteers, wanted to help. And there was a lot of food and a lot of leftover, and it was a great time. So one other thing I want to do tonight, a year or so ago when I was doing streets and sidewalks, we had KCI do a road and sidewalk evaluation for us. We spent about $40,000 on this, so it's not going away. We still have it. I want to pass this over to Commissioner Braun. That is the report, and it's got a lot of good information that's still relevant. It didn't go away, you know, as we've tried to save some money, and hopefully we can do some street maintenance this year. It can come out of that program we've got there. So that's about all I have tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Authrenreith. Commissioner Braun?
Yes, last week I had the opportunity to meet with Chief Peterson, the town administrator, Bonenberger, and some representatives from KCI. We discussed traffic in Rising Sun. We were looking to see if they could do a study and try to correct some of the problems we now have. Also looking into what kind of impact new development will have on traffic in Rising Sun, and whether they could come up with any suggestions as to how we could plan for the future and take up traffic problems before they really get bad. So that's, we'll be waiting in a couple of months. Hopefully we'll get something back on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Braun. Commissioner Pearson?
Well, everybody told you. Friday was a lot of fun. A lot of work went into it, but honestly, it went over great. We just, you know, a lot of people put a lot of effort into it, especially Jen and Tom Scully. They were cooking too. You don't realize the volume of food that you have to cook for such a small volume of people. I learned how to cook bacon the wrong way, so I apologize about that. I was told you don't cook bacon the way I cook it, so I'll know better next year. Next year, hopefully, we're going to move to a bigger venue. We need more space. We've got people that want to volunteer, but more importantly, we've got officers that came that kind of filled this place up, and it, you know, that tells us if they're coming, that we have to make it bigger. Again, I can't thank the volunteers enough. Everybody here that helped. It was pretty good. People were happy. The police officers were real happy. We are going to try to do something like this in October for the fire side. We've done police, now we'll do fire. I'll start planning that a lot earlier now that I know how to plan this one. But hopefully we'll get a good response on that also. I have to answer something for a couple of reasons. Part of the responsibility of the town is to supply water and sewer. okay? And unfortunately, we also have to tax water and sewer. You can't call it anything but that, okay? Let's not put any fancy names on them. We all pay it, and it matters. Anywhere you're in a municipality, you're gonna pay it, okay? Whether it's Baltimore or Rising Sun or Bel Air, all right? Some people have made a couple comments in social media about taxing the wells in Rising Sun. And Calvin and I have been banging our heads together for a few minutes. I know of probably less than 5 places in the town that are on wells. And the reason they're on wells is because they chose not to hook into the water system when it came to be available for them, okay? We also have probably, less than 20 that are not in town that are on water and sewer. And then we have a few that are on just sewer, okay? Those people pay a higher rate than you do, okay? But we can't tax people for wells. The area of Rising Sun may be a large area, but the actual town is not. So, I just want to make sure everyone says it. Yes, I'm sorry. The mayor just handed me a note. So I hope you understand about the taxing of wells. There's no wells to tax, really. If any of you are on Facebook and saw my picture with Terry Bonenberger shopping last week at the depot, restaurant depot up in Wilmington, I have to say that I haven't pushed a cart as fast as that little woman can go around. I'd be pushing it, I'd stop to get something, and she'd be 3/4 up the aisle, and I'd be, Terry was a great help too in getting, help us getting that. So I'm sorry, we did not mention Terry but once again, she was an integral part because we were able to get the food at a somewhat less cost. So I think that's about it, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pearson. And Terry also stayed and helped clean up as well at the end of the event. So thank you again, and to Calvin for letting her volunteer as well. Commissioner Warnick.
I'm actually going to be real brief. I'll have more of a report next town meeting.
Well, that's good because I have someone I'm wooing. If you
There you
could
go.
hurry.
So I was going to let you get back to your wooing. So
Thank you, Commissioner Warnick. All right. Do we have anything else to come before the board this evening? I do have a few things that I'm going to remind. We do have a Planning Commission workshop, which is February the 16th at 6:30. And then we have another one that's February the 27th at 6:30 as well. And then our next town meeting will be February the 28th, 2017. So is there anything else to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Could I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.